Welcome, everybody, to Steve Couper's podcast for aspiring real estate investors. In each episode, we connect with seasoned investors and industry subject matter experts who are eager to share their stories and experience and tips for success in this industry. Um, Before I forget, if you'd be so kind as to hit the like button and make sure you're subscribed to this channel. If you feel you're getting value out of this, it'd be even better if you were to share it with friends. So today's a great day. I'm really excited to introduce my guest. She has 20 years of high-level sales experience. She's worked with FinTech 50 and Fortune 500 companies. She's an expert speaker. She's also the CEO and founder of Sage Investment and Consulting. Um, this is an extreme honor to be able to introduce Shadgie Jean. Um, I had the pleasure of hearing your presentation recently at a conference that just blew me away with how precise and helpful this was. So I can't wait to share that information with this audience. Ladies and gentlemen, Shadgie Jean.
Thank you. What a great intro. I really appreciate it, Steve. And it was great to meet you in person at that conference because we've talked a few times online on messaging, but we haven't had that opportunity to meet. And that was really good to be able to meet you in person.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was wonderful. So I want to talk about that. I'm going to start with that presentation where you introduce the power of smart systems, how to build a real estate business that runs without you. I can't wait for you to share that information with the audience. Let's talk about it. Tell me more.
It's funny because we live in a world where technology is taking over even more than actually it was before. But oftentimes, I think one question people ask themselves is, where do I start? There's so many tools. We talk about AI automation, but it's great. And I 100% agree with it. But where do you start? And I think that the idea behind it is like, how do you build a foundation when it comes to, and beyond the technology, when it comes to processes for your business? How do you build a foundation when it comes to, where do I store my investors' contact? What do I do once I have this investors' contact? Do I have a follow-up framework? Do I have specific processes in terms of like growing a brand? And that's where I said, okay, there has to be a way to do it where it becomes smart and the business runs for you, because the last thing we want to be is employees of our own business.
Yeah. Yeah, all too often that happens. You find yourself up early in the morning and working late at night. And are you actually producing your best work? Is it something that you can't offload to others or can't have automated? I love that.
Yeah.
This is relevant to me. I really want to learn how to systemize my business so it runs efficiently, saves me time, deepens my relationships, and continues to scale even when I'm not in the room. I'm quoting you, by the way. So, so I want to learn more about that. So how does this work? Let's give us the bare essentials of this. How does this function?
Okay, so the first thing I tell people, even before we talk about anything that has to do with technology, it starts with mindset.
Mm,
How ready are you? Right? We have a situation with a lot of investors where investors or business owners are busy,
mm.
but being busy doesn't mean that you're being productive. So the first
Amen.
thing,
Amen to that.
so the first thing is taking out the busy part and getting to the mindset. Because I've met investors that want to work with me, but I had to tell them, I don't think this is the right time. We may have to wait because you have to be mentally ready to do the work. When it comes to that, we know that, for instance, I'm a member of Well Genius, you're as well part of the community. They will tell you you need to get a CRM. Okay, it's great. How does it start? Where do I start? So the idea behind it, I do have investors that I work with that already have their own. They'll have Salesforce, they'll have High Level, they'll have HubSpot, but it's really about, once you have that tool, how do you proceed to make sure that all stage of your business work? So yes, the CRM can be the foundation, and as you proceed, you need to have processes. What's your follow-up framework? Because I always said, especially when I was in sales, my thing that I used to say is that you are the best salesperson when you're really good at following up. It's
Hmm.
the same thing with raising capital. You are the best at raising capital if you're really good at following up. I used to tell people when they used to ask me, how do you close such large deals? I was relentless when it was time to follow up with um, customers or potential customers. And I think that's something that people have to do. So when it comes to systemizing your business, it's not just the technology. Yes, you need to have your technology, you need to have CRM. How do you use ChatGPT? How you use AI? Which one is better? Is it Anthropic by Claude? That is probably better than ChatGPT for some investors, and so on and so forth. What is some of the things that you create in order to create automation? I believe strongly that yes, you can go in and create a whole system that works, but if the mindset is not there, the action won't be there. We've heard about atomic habits. Everything about is about the small little steps or habits that you take on a daily basis that will create that foundation. Once that foundation is there, it takes like it could take a few weeks, it could take a few months. Once you create that foundation, the rest is just you close your eyes and you let it work for you. There has to be moment like anything, you have to check it in. As I always say, make sure that your system becomes your assistant, right? So that's kind of
Make sure your system becomes your assistant. I got to remember that.
yeah.
So you brought it up a few times. Let's walk into it. So um, let's imagine I'm a new investor. I've
Mhm.
just discovered the power of real estate through a seminar or something that's attracted me. I want to get into this. I've started studying, and I hear about a CRM. I hear about systems. I hear about Sajay. So I say, okay, I'll get on the phone with you. And you're talking about needing to have your head in the right space and your mindset's ready. Do you need to have deals in the work? Do you need to have a series of of X number of followers or investors or friends? How do you gauge the right point in your journey, in your career here or business to say, okay, now it's time to invest in this automation and the CRM and the systems to be able to assist me? What is the right point for people?
That's a great question. So the first thing that I will do is I'll jump on a call with the investor and I do a discovery call, but I ask questions that are more about that allows me to know which direction the person is going. In terms of their business, what are their goals? If I often say that when you start as an investor, everybody thinks that by the end of the first year, they'll have like 1,000 doors and they'll be quitting their job. When the and I don't want to say that the dream is unrealistic because it's like it could be possible for certain people. However, I do believe that all depending where the person is in their journey, that will determine where you we're going. So I've had a situation, and this is a great example because I have a situation presently with an investor that came to me. That investor does not own any property, but has intention of investing. The investor has capital to invest on her own, but at the same time, she's also wanting to build another business, another stream of income related to real estate, property management. And the reason why I accepted to work with her is I was able to see that she had a clear plan in her head, but she had a hard time putting it together and knowing where to go. In the past, she had businesses, but the businesses were a little bit different. And I was able to sit down and say, okay, we're going to take a step back and do like a kind of a 180, right? Where do we start? Where do we create kind of that foundation for your business?
Mm.
As we created that foundation for her business, during our calls, it's not only about the technology. We talk about, like, for instance, I tend to, if the person, as I'm talking, there's negative talk, I'll stop them and I'll say, hey, you need to be careful about what you speak. I believe in the strength of words. You know, I believe that you will create or you will destroy with what you say because what you say out loud is what will be in the future, right? You speak your life. So I have conversation about okay, here's what we're going to do with your business, but at the same time, here's how we're keeping the mindset. Here are the steps that you need to do. Here are the people you need to reach out to. I will give recommendation. I will refer to other people in the industry that I know because I do have a great network in order to help the people grow. Once I see certain action being taken, at that point, we go to the next steps are building everything else, a different framework. So it's really a question of understanding where the person is going. And I've had situations where I had investors come to me, tell me they wanted to work with me. And I had to take a step back and tell them, I appreciate you choosing me. I think right now we're going to take a moment and focus first on you creating your real estate foundation.
Mm.
Understand really what real estate is, because at the end of the day, we invest in education, we invest in this community. And there are a few people, unfortunately, that will start and eventually will let go. I don't want somebody to start with me and then not continue the rest of their journey. So it really depends where they are in the journey and where they intend to go as well.
Is there ever a point when it's too late and there's too much catching up to make it worthwhile?
Uh,
Well, if somebody's
Explain.
been doing this for 10 years or so,
Okay.
is there still value in coming in and saying, okay, I need,
Yes.
yeah,
Actually, sometimes it's even better because that I think what happened at time, well, I wouldn't say better. It's different. I've had investors that were doing it for years. There was no systems, right? Systems were cell phones, notebook, sometimes Excel if that's a lucky part.
it's how the world
But
works some the old days.
but at the same time, they come to a point where they realize if I don't systemize my business, I won't grow. So what happened at that time is that if a person already has the mindset of growth, they have a bigger opening of saying, okay, I'm ready to learn and I'm ready to kind of accelerate. It does happen sometimes that that person has team. So because they have other people in their team, they're able to delegate other part of the business. I have a situation with an investor that I've been doing it for many years, and I work with members of his team in order to help that member of the team kind of become the expert when it comes to that, so that she can help the other members of the company
Yeah,
grow when it comes to using technology or even the way to approach the different processes that we're creating together.
nice, nice. Hey, Sajid, do you still work with other industries? Or are you now are working just with real estate investors? Are you still connected to the fashion and retail side of things, or is this
So yeah, like that's a great question. I was in fashion for, oh my God, over I would say 15 plus years. I loved it. It was an industry that I had passion about. It was an industry where I was constantly exposed to beauty and creativity. I worked with a fashion designer in Montreal for about 7 years, helped her grow her business. We're still friends to this day. And the one thing that I love, even though I don't work in that industry, I also even had my business. I had a business where what I was doing is that I was working with a group of women in Haiti, and they were doing hand embroidery and painting on fabrics. They were sustainable fabrics, bring it back to Toronto. And then I would create pieces out of them and sell them online or to people. So that was doing great. I had to stop after a while, especially with the war, and it became dangerous to work in Haiti right now. But eventually I stopped the fashion, not for the way I dress, because I still kind of incorporated in my personal style, but also because I was able to understand that I could take that creativity and that passion and bring it into the investment world. So, in a sense, even though it's not necessarily fabrics and dresses and skirt and other beautiful things, I feel like I'm also creating. I'm able to help investors create their system. I'm able to help them take a step back and think, and it's beautiful for me to see how I'm able to take all of my past knowledge and skills and transfer it, and that's why I strongly believe we all have transferable skills. It's a question of understanding how do we take these skills and use them to the next level.
yeah. Oh, love that. Love that. Hey, one of the biggest challenges that I've noted as an investor, I get busy. I get busy analyzing deals. I get busy talking to investors. I get busy with the rest of the distractions in education and the shiny objects. And following up with investors, making sure that I'm communicating in a timely fashion before the months are disappearing is one of the bigger challenges I've faced. Now, I've heard you talk about this. Let's talk about how the power of systems would help keep me on track with that.
Okay, so that's a great question. I love the follow-up part. So I created a framework that's my follow-up framework. I call it the follow-up framework. So the first thing I always say is that you have the 24-hour bridge. What the 24-hour bridge is when you meet somebody, you have 24 hours to follow up after meeting that person. And the reason being is that data shows that after 24 hours, people forget about 40% of what was said to them. After 1 week, they forget 90%. Over a week, most people barely remember some of the conversation, right? So the 24-hour bridge is a way to be able to keep the person engaged. Oftentimes, I always say when you do follow up, don't just follow up by saying, it was great to see you. I'll give you an example. Hi, Steve. It was nice to see you at the seminar and great connecting with you. If you receive 7 messages like that, you may not even remember who sent you the first one.
Yeah.
But if I say to you, hey, Steve, it was great connecting with you at the seminar. I'm really happy to hear about the deal that you were telling me about in Edmonton. I've seen that it's a great market. Interestingly enough, I found this great article about Edmonton that I'm attaching in this email or in this text. I thought that would be something that would be um, interesting to you. So what I'm doing is not only giving the 24 hours, but I'm also bringing value. So following up the 24-hour, you need to bring value, right? It is important because if you don't bring value, you don't distinguish yourself.
Right.
Once you bring value, I always say you have the 3-2-1 cadence. So that's the third step. What the 3-2-1 cadence is, the first time that you meet somebody, the first month, you reach out 3 times. The second month, you reach out twice. And every time after that, you do a monthly follow up. The idea behind it is that you stay top of mind. By staying top of mind, even by sending messages about your deal, about information about you, or even asking the person about what's going on with you, other things like that, it is something that allows the person to always remember you. We meet 100, especially as investors. We go to a lot of networking events. We go to a lot of seminar. We meet hundreds of people. How
Yeah.
do you remember everybody? But think about it. If Steve sends me a message on a monthly basis telling me about what happened to him, which travel he did, who he met, what seminar he'd been through, at one point, the next time I see Steve, I'll feel like, oh my God, I know this guy.
Hmm.
And it brings what we call trust. Investment is not made only by numbers and property. The main way to raise capital and to have people invest in your deal is to trust. People will work with people that they trust, not with deals that they love.
Yes.
So, and then at the end, the fourth step is what I call the ask. That's when you can actually reach out to that person and say, and ask, I've been working on a deal, and because you've been followed up for a while, right? So then you can say, I thought that that was something you mentioned a few months back that you would be interested in investing in a deal in Edmonton. I want to know if you wanted to hear more about what I'm working on and if that fits your parameters. At this point, the trust is built. You brought value, and that bring value is something that you need to do constantly. It doesn't have to do to every messages, but constantly. And you also have that person where they feel like, I know Steve, so it is easier to ask for another call, a meeting, or even an introduction.
Right. So taking taking that fresh contact that you've made at the seminar, say, and you'll obviously need to get the contact information. You're following up with emails just to say stay in touch, and then you're eventually saying, "Let's get on a call and talk about this deal."
Yeah,
Yeah, it builds into something that's got the groundwork foundation underneath it, so that that communication isn't a surprise.
exactly. And those monthly email could eventually become where that person is more inside of a marketing email. Because if you have 60 people to do those follow-up, it could be, or if you have 150, it could take a lot. However, maybe the initial one put the effort in making it more personalized.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot to this, right? And it's almost of its own. Imagine trying to do that without the benefit of a system. It's maybe like you say, notes on a page or a whiteboard with a checklist or something. But
Exactly.
you've got to actually struggle through this. I love this system. I love what you're talking about and how it works. How long have you been doing this now? Sage as investment consulting has been around how long now?
Yeah, but I would say about like a year, like almost, I'm getting into that year and a half.
Nice.
Um, but I was doing it a little bit more before, was more like on my own. And then eventually I got more and more people coming to me, more investors say, "Hey, I've seen what you've been doing. I've heard you've been creating your own system. Can you show me how you're doing it?" And eventually I realized, okay, I need to share this because it's something that's needed. And I strongly believe that when we have something important or even some sort of value that we bring to people, it is our responsibility to be able to share with the world. So,
I love it. I love it. So if I were to actually try and recap what I've heard here, you've taken the background in sales and fashion. You started working on a CRM and teaching people how that CRM worked, and you realize there's more required. You need to have a system. It's not just about a database, but you actually need to systemize how you're communicating with your investors. And you've developed Sage Investing and Consulting to help share that with the world. And I love it.
exactly.
Yeah. Okay. I managed to catch this. I've got it in.
You did.
So, you mentioned in that paragraph I quoted right up front, deepens your relationships. So, how do you feel that this helps to provide deeper relationships with your investors then? It's the continuous contact, I guess, right?
Yes, it's interesting because one book that I read and that I love a lot is How to Become a Power Connector by Judy Robinett.
Uh-oh.
And in this book, she talks about the importance of relationship and how to deepen relationship. I mean, we all heard of the book, How to Influence Others. I'm sorry, I don't remember the exact title, by Dale Carnegie. Um, it relationships is about building um, from the ground up, right? The
Yes.
first thing you need to do, you need to have foundation. I think that one thing that is important is that I strongly believe that the best way to build relationship is to keep in contact or remember little things. In sales, when I was in the fashion industry or even in sales, one thing I remember I used to be very good at is remembering little details. I could remember, and I also had my notebooks, but if a client told me that they next week they're going to their daughter's recital, the next time I'll see you, even if it's 6 months after, I will ask you, how was that recital? Or even in between that time, I may email you and ask you, how was the recital? How was your daughter after that? I think that one of the thing about relationship, it has to be genuine.
Yeah.
It can't be building relationship to get something out of it. It really has to be genuine.
Yeah.
I am a lot of people that like people that know me knows I will pick up the phone and call people. I am not a text. I'll text, but I'm not that great at texting. I will send if I don't. I know some people maybe calling is not their specialty. I'll leave voice messages on WhatsApp or on text. I actually went on a webinar a couple months ago, and the coach was saying even for business, leave voice messages. And it's interesting because I was already doing it for my personal life. And there's something so personal about feeling that kind of like live voice, handwritten messages instead of having everything so electric, like on the device, it's like iPhone or iPad or any form of iNess, it's just like but actually doing it more personalized. So in order to deepen relationship, it's really thinking about what are some of the things that I can do in order to make that relationship genuine?
Yeah.
Not about what can I get from it? Is that a great investor? No, it's like let's build a relationship. As the relationship builds, you will see investor will come to you without even you noticing,
Yeah.
because people will start trusting you, and these um like the foundation will be deeper, deeper, deeper in the connection as well.
I believe in that too. I mean, one of the things that lights me up is helping people, helping
Yeah.
others, and getting to know them, and seeing where they've got problems, and seeing what I can't do to help them solve those problems and improve their situation accordingly. And I do that at work. I do that with friends. I do that with family, and I do that with investors. I love that this offers the opportunity to help systemize a business to help others as well.
Mhm.
That's very cool. Um, Saji, we're running out of time, but I want to ask, why do you do this? What's your why? What's your goal? Where do you see your business going? What do you want to achieve? Let's hear that.
I love this question. I was asking myself the same question the other day. I had a why when I started investing, and my why kind of changed. And I realized that it's about helping people. Like it's about feeling that I can give. I've always been a very giving person. I'm very generous in the person that I am. And I realize if I see an investor, what is something that I can do in order to help them get there? I don't think of my why as only, oh, here's how I'm gonna get to travel the world and become rich, rich, rich. Like this is not just the goal. Don't get me wrong. I'll be happy if that happens. I'm not gonna lie. However, the main goal is really to be able to help others. A little bit like what you said. I think I find joy when I'm doing after a session with a customer and they are ecstatic and they feel like, oh my God, I can do this. It's not as hard as I thought it would be. This is my joy. This is my joy to see, okay, I'm able to make that investor get to that next level. So, yeah, their success is my success.
Magic. I love that. I love that. Okay. If somebody wants to reach you, how should they go about doing that?
I am available on Instagram. So my handle is Shadgie.Jean. So Shadgie dot Jean. And the same on Facebook. I'm actually more active on Facebook, to tell you the truth. I know Instagram is a huge platform, but I'm more active on Facebook because most investors are on Facebook. So, Facebook, you can reach out to me, or you can go on my website, which is www.sageic, so SAGEIC.com.
Nice.
This is the best way to reach me.
I love it. Well, thank you very much, Saji. It's been a true pleasure spending this time with you. I hope the audience gets as much out of this as I have. And don't forget, folks, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and share this with your friends. Thanks very much.
Thank you.